Thank you for staying with Daybreak. We're giving the young people, as always, every Friday a chance to air their views on matters of national importance. My guests are with me here in studio. John Kiari is the chairperson, New Generation Aspirants Movements, that's NGA. Agneta Mwangale is a university student. Manasseh Tuneni is an advocate of the High Court. Jared Mugendi is an advocate of the High Court as well. Hafidh Mohamud is a youth leader. And Mariam Onkomba, next-gen leader. Thank you all for making time. And Jared, let's talk about this dialogue that has been called upon, especially from the young people and the political class. The structure of it all is still a conversation that is out there. Yeah. But should this be the right direction to take? Should the young people come to the table and speak to government, air their issues, plus what they think are the solutions, and come up with a peaceful resolution going forward?
Well, you know, the propagator of the intergenerational conclave is a very big name to most of us. It just means let's talk. Is Raila Odinga, and the man is known for that. Dialogues. We realize that in those dialogues that he has initiated, Kenyans really have very little to show for them, but Raila Odinga has a lot to show for the dialogues that he has convened in this country. One would recall that we had the conversation, I think, in 1997-8 when they got into that thing, the cooperative. Then one would ask, how did the citizens benefit? Of course, very little. I don't hear my mother, I don't hear anybody talking about the benefits that they got from that. Comes to 2007, 2008, Nusumkate, another big conversation between Raila and Mwai Kibaki. What benefit did the Mwananchi get? Of course, very little, but Raila became the prime minister of this country. Come to 2018, the big name BBI, Building Bridges Initiative conversation. One asks, how did the citizens benefit? Say for, of course, the losses that they accrued from the, the meetings that we actually funded to come up with the BBI. We lost a lot of funds in that. And who benefited? Raila Amolo Odinga. And then come to now the NADCO report, the most recent. How have we benefited? It just happened, I think, 2 years ago. How have we benefited? The 10-point agenda that he actually brought on the table, how many of that has been achieved? One asks, Raila Odinga, even the last one that you just had the other day, tell Kenyans first how many of that has been achieved and how actually is being is reflecting in the lives of the people.
But even though this is not about him, he has suggested a conversation.
Now, I'm coming to that.
Give their side of it.
Yes, I'm coming now to that. I'm coming to that.
Yeah.
So I've just taken us through that to just show us that every time he initiates a conversation, it is always said it is for the best interest of the people. But going back through the memory lane, you would actually count very less in terms of what the Mwananchi has achieved. And now he has said, let's have the intergenerational conclave. I don't have a problem with my grandfather. Trevor, do you have a problem with your grandfather? I don't have a problem with old people in this country. We as youth, our problem is the current regime and the way they are conducting the affairs of this country. And our grievances are in black and white. They know them. When you are saying, we are talking about the corruption, and actually, we are not against any youth meeting the president, because listening to some of us, one would quickly conclude that they may be talking with the president, and we don't have a problem with that. All we are saying, for those of us that want real change, we have already expressed ourselves, and all we want from the government is action. The president has held so many consultative meetings with the youth. You'd remember during the new funding model for the universities, he went to respond to questions himself. But just the other day, you realized that a report came that more than 50,000 students who qualified to go to university have not actually applied for the universities because of the fear of the high school fees that is required from them. The president did nothing about that. We talked about the judicial killing. In fact, even in the NADCO report, there was something like peace, protecting the protest, safeguarding the peaceful protest, and of course the sovereignty of the people. At the moment, the president is saying, shoot the people. So I mean, this intergenerational conclave, we do not have a problem with it. But again, we are saying we've already expressed ourselves, and all we're asking of the president, can you now act on what we've been telling you? Because these conversations, I think we've just held them. And Ruto is quite clever. If you just call him and just talk to him, you realize that he'll tell you a lot of sweet things. Someone told us about Mama Mboga, something that he used to woo us into voting him in 2022, but immediately he ascended to where he was going, he forgot about that. In 2024, when we had very peaceful protests, again, we held a meeting with him. He was so soft-spoken, very sweet to us, but as soon as he assumed that we are now done with that, he forgot everything that we spoke last year. And therefore, we believe even if we had another discussion today, he'll be so sweet with us, but as soon as we are done, forget. So act on what you've been saying. All right.
Agneta, when you made your first submissions, you spoke about the youth not being in the picture. How do you want to be brought into the picture, if not through a conversation?
You see, generally, we are the people right now who have the highest number, like we are the young people have the highest number in this country. And you will see most of these activities. You remember by the time the president was dissolving the parliament because of the outcry of the people, what happened? The replacements, he said very well that now I've had you, and I am going to make sure that all other aspects are considered. And it was because we, the youth, went to the streets to ask for, whatever is happening and to ask for rightful way of doing things. So by so doing, it reached a point where the president was like, now, I've had you, then I'm going to make things easier on your side. But what happened? There was replacement of the same people in different dockets. And second, I didn't see any reflection of the face of youth in that kind of replacement, or I don't know what it's called. So, and it's not that only. You see these issues affecting Kenyans right now. Most of the challenges are lack of employment. Who are these people who are not employed? Are the youth. When you see this thing, like I'm just done with my university recently, as I said before, this issue of new funding model, the funding system of not just university, but also from primary school, the whole system of education, it's failing. Who are these people who are suffering? They're youth. When you go to streets, who are these people who are dying? They're youth. So when we ask to be part and parcel of the whole thing about leadership and governance, it's not like we want a fight. We just want also our voice to be heard.
Okay.
Yeah.
The reason why I ask how you will be heard is because the statement you just made earlier on after the cabinet reshuffle, you said that you didn't see the face of the young people. But what a CS Eric Mugaa is actually a young person like yourselves. Does that mean that it's not enough, or do you want more numbers? And this is where the conversation also is going to, because even what Raila Odinga said is that more than 50% of all those who are forming this intergenerational conclave should be the young people. So are we talking about numbers here? Are we talking about specific representatives? How do you want to be included? Because Eric Mugaa is a young CS and is in cabinet.
You see,
after the reshuffle, is that not enough?
You see, Trev, one thing that we all know is that when you're not on the table, okay, Waswahili husema asiyekuwepo na lake halipo.
Yeah.
We feel we are not fully represented as youth.
So and this will be based on numbers?
Not numbers per se. Our voice must be heard, and not by giving, by giving us one person, then we are contented. We have a lot of things that we, the young people, can be, brought to. We can be incorporated to a lot of things, and a lot of discussions. you know, because we have cried, we have wailed, we have protested, but things are the same.
Yeah.
There is no change, basically.
So then if going by your argument, is it then time to try something different? Like a conversation. Yes, you have cried, you have protested, you have wailed. Is it time now to come to the table and sit and say, these are our irreducible minimums, and this is the short-term goals, this is the long-term goals, this is where we start.
Okay.
So that if it is not done, then it was a conversation that was had by the youth, and it was an agreement, and it was violated.
I want to echo whatever my friend said.
Yeah.
And maybe I may not be speaking for myself, but I'm speaking for what the youth are saying outside here. We are all on social media. We are all seeing whatever is happening. You know, when I was coming, there is somebody who texted me, and he told me, you see, when it comes to that conversation, we have recruited Kina Albert Ojwang, Kina Rex Masai, and all other people who have lost their lives to represent us on that conclave. Those are not my words. Those are the words of the people. And that's what's being said out here. You see? So it means, like, we have been speaking these things over and over again. And I don't think if there is anything new, we are going to start speaking
that is different,
that everyone is interested in listening to it.
Okay.
Yes.
Let me hear what Manasseh has to say. Manasseh, so what is the way forward on this? Because there are two diametrically opposed positions. There are those who say we can have a conversation, and then there are those who say that we should not have a conversation because anytime there's a conversation, only a few people benefit. So what is the way forward?
Trevor, I'd want to agree with what Jared Mugendi said earlier. What is the harm in having a conversation? I mean, why are you so scared of a conversation that you do not want it?
They say it's been had before and not
no,
much has come.
We've not had such kind of a conversation where we are saying this is an intergenerational conversation. We need our older people and we need our young people to come to the table and iron our issues. You know, Trevor, it is not the same way that I was brought up and the same and how I'll bring up my child. It is the same. It is not the same way how our parents were brought up. Things were different then. Things are different now. You see, and this conversation has come up times. You know, sometimes even you might be young, but somebody may be a little bit older than us. They're having a conversation with their children. You know, it is not that time that you tell your child, no, stop, don't do that and that. It is a time that your child asks you, Daddy, umesema kwa nini? Mbona unataka nifanye hivyo? You have a conversation with that child. It is about time that, you know, we speak to our government, we speak to our leaders. You know, it is us who elected these leaders to those positions to represent us. And if you feel like they are not representing your interests, it is for you to call them to the table and tell them, you see, these and these and these are not being done right. We need you to represent us in this and this and this. And the way my colleague here said earlier that, you know, we've not had any fruits in this kind of conversation. And I went back and thought about the conversation of 2008. You cannot sit and say there was no benefit or fruits of the 2008 conversation. It ended the violence that was there. People died. Our country was going into the ditches. And as a fruit of that conversation, there was peace up to recent times. So, and we see that trend coming in. When there are violence everywhere, when there are deaths all the other time, we need to come back and sit down and say, you know, if you think that this is not the way to govern, can we have a conversation and have one voice to say, I mean, this is where we want to go. And what my sister Agneta said, you know, that representation, we need more youth. That is okay. And think of it this way. You know, the president has a mandate of organization of government. He has that mandate by the Constitution to pick a team that it is him who knows or understands that this is the team that is going to deliver on my agenda for the country. This is the team that is going to deliver on the proposals that I'll make. So it is his prerogative to determine that team. And when you say, you know, we need these youths, Muga is a CS. He represents youth. You know, you can't take that away from him. You say, no, it is not enough. If it is not enough, now come to the table and tell us we need
what
more.
Is enough? Yeah.
What is enough?
Agneta,
you need 10, you need 5, you need 2. Also, people with disability will come to the table and say, you know, we do not have a person with disability on the cabinet. Can you give us one? Also, women will come to the table and say, we do not have enough numbers of women representing us in the cabinet? Can we have more? Those are the conversations that we need to have. And it is not like a conversation that only, not because Raila Odinga is the one calling. You know, he's been there, he's seen it all. And he knows what's best. I mean, he has learned from the past and he can see the future. And that's when they say, you know, an old person seated down can see far than a man on top of a tree. This is his desire that this country should go this way.
Yeah.
When you say...
He doesn't necessarily have to be involved, by the way. He mentioned directly that he doesn't need to be part
Exactly. He doesn't need to be part of it. If you want to say he is now in the broad-based government, he doesn't need any more to be here. He is already there. Yeah. That's why he said, you know, as young people, you are our children. Come to the table, give us your proposal, tell us what you want. When you say that you know these things, but when the president is trying to implement these things, there are protests coming up each and every day. And you know, sometimes, the aim of the Constitution in, I think, Article 37, giving a right to protest, it is for you to bring your memoranda. Come with what is you need to be done. Present it to either Parliament, present it to the president or whoever is in authority and tell us, you know, these are our demands. Okay. That has never happened.
Okay.
The only things that have happened are distractions and mayhem. Okay.
Mugendi, what would be the best way of having this dialogue so that there's not a feeling that this will only benefit a few and not the people it was intended for?
Allow me to borrow some Christian principles for the benefit of the conversation. And for those eager to box into corners, perhaps indulge some latitude. The creator of the universe, who is right, wise, and all-round, all-knowing, has himself written in the text, "Come, let us reason together." With sinners, people who have disobeyed, disappointed, annoyed him from time immemorial. Now, it will not be ridiculous for me to suggest there are people on this panel who would suggest he created us, it's his fault. And that kind of fixed mindset is what the McKinsey Academy has created an entire program to solve. Fixed mindsets are mindsets that, you know, Tunen sounds like he's speaking for someone, so I cannot agree with what he's saying. So, and I am right all the time. Now, those who are right all the time, maybe check their own personal spaces, their measures of success, so that we see how we can borrow some of those principles. Because from where we sit, even in blue chip companies that we assume are doing well, the idea of talking can be framed in a variety of ways. For instance, the person who tells us the story of what is wrong designs our perceptions. If they design our perception, they ultimately control the influence they have over us. If your algorithm has seen that all you search for are anti-things, anti-this, anti-that, destruction this, destruction that, your perception is ultimately designed or engineered in favor or in anger too. And that is what, that kind of mindset is what I'm saying, is so ingrained, not because of something you are practically conscious of, but it has been so ingrained to a degree that if someone was to point something positive, they are ultimately treated as an enemy. If someone was to speak something positive that they have seen, they ultimately become, you know, that person is against us, that person cannot ration properly because they are not sitting on our side of the aisle. For me, where we need to start is, who is the custodian of good information? That we can sit, analyze factually and say, okay, with this information that we have, this is where you have excelled well and you have succeeded well. Because for anyone who can point out to you failures ultimately they should be able to say, there is another area where I can see you trying to improve. Can I jump in and improve that particular area? It's difficult to hear that conversation in the current space. Everybody just wants to point the failures, not the progress. Now, from the information I gather on my own is there are coffee farmers who are celebrating that the price of coffee has improved. I am able to pay school fees. What happens to those people? Are they allowed to talk? Are they allowed to hold national conversations? What about those people in Homa Bay who I saw celebrating the new pier that was created by, in collaboration with the national and county government? What happens to them? Are they all supposed to be, is their joy, should it be concealed? You know? What happens to the doctors' union who said, it seems like there is some progress since independence, you know? What happens to our pensioners who in the new tax regime are no longer going to be taxed? What happens to the progress in balancing the budget that because of the constraints that we are finding in, we are seeing some determined efforts? Shouldn't we encourage, as much as we are calling out what is bad, is it really ridiculous to cheer what is going on well? Or what is going on well has been drowned with a fixed mindset that, you know what, I am right, you are wrong, I don't need to hear from you, and whatever happens will happen. And in fact, we are suggesting that if it were even possible, you can even leave tomorrow. Yes. That kind of arrangement, in my view, does not move things forward for our country. But what moves for me as a starter, where do we get our source of information?
Okay.
Where do we get our source of progress? If you want our leaders to hear you, the street is one alternative.
Yeah.
I am an advocate. I think Tunen is an advocate as well. I've heard so is an advocate, and he seems to be a good one. He will tell you you can petition a cabinet secretary. For instance, there is a plan in the procurement laws. Perhaps those who are seated here should start looking at these things. In the procurement law, in public-private, in the PPPs, you can have an unsolicited bid.
Yeah.
Those people who we think are very good, say, in IT, and I'm giving it as a practical example because perhaps that's what we should engage our conversation on. Why don't we develop systems or suggest systems which we can take to a cabinet secretary, say, who we all agree is doing a good job, John Buddy, and say, we have a system here that can fix A, B, C, and D, can solve challenge A, B, and D. The PPP laws allow for unsolicited bids.
Yeah.
Now, is that the conversation you've had? Or we've all had everybody wants to go to the street? You can also advise county assemblies through their numerous forums. Courts have been ready to take anything down that looks or seems or is about to be unconstitutional. The forum that has been presented, remember, whoever gives you your source of information designs your perception and designs your influence. So I genuinely feel that the conversation should start with us young people first being armed with the right information and the correct source of information, factually.
All right. Hafid, what is the alternative? What alternative do you propose? Because you said that we've had these conversations, they just need to implement. But even in the implementation, there's always that conversation in terms of it's not being done the way you want it. Yeah, because I'll give you a typical example, and this is not to support or castigate anyone. If the affordable housing is there are people who complain that they don't want the houses because they're being deducted the money, fair point. But there's also that young man who for the first time has a job as a mason. He may not have the blue-collar job that you want. He may not have the job that he deserves, but he has a job. That implementation, maybe many people will not agree with that yes, it's job creation, but this is not the job we want. So what alternative is there if it's not the dialogue conversation and then the conversation that people sit and agree that this is the direction we want to take? What alternative do you propose? Because in the implementation, there's still going to be some variation in it.
Thank you, Trevor. For starters, I respect Raila Odinga so much. And I used to be his great follower until recently. I want to believe Kenyans had, I don't know what's conclave, but I believe it's some sort of dialogue. Kenyans had that in 2010, when we had this very progressive constitution. We had dialogued enough. I believe that was the greater dialogue. I'm not a lawyer in any way, but I love reading that small book called Constitution. And anytime I read, I feel and see hope. I see progress. I almost feel everything is catered for, apart from some few things. We are humans. We can never be satisfied. Our wants will always grow. But if only that conclave called 2010 Constitution is followed, and I will repeat that one, the way it is, then at this stage, someone who has fought, who has tried, who has been going through all those processes, like Right Honorable Raila, will not have been speaking of intergenerational dialogue. We have had that one. Everything is catered for, from what we want, from how it's supposed to be done, and what will come. Now, for argument's sake, let's assume we'll take this dialogue. What form will it take? Where will it happen? How will it happen? Trevor, I'm from a region that's naturally detached from any national conversation, the northern side. Everything happens in Nairobi, or maybe where there is a state lodge, or let's say state house. What will happen to us? How will we come in? Let's even assume it will happen somewhere and we'll have representatives, because it's not possible to bring everyone, the 50 million Kenyans, together. Did we have that one in our constitution? Yes, we did. What's happening is as a result of what's not done properly. Anything that's happening, from protest to the anger to discontent. And as my friend here said, fine, there are things that are going good, and we appreciate. But for it to go better, it's not a dialogue. We have had these talks. As long as it's driven by politicians, as long as it is coming from politicians, I have zero trust. Even if that politician is my father, I have zero trust in
What if it doesn't come from them?
If it doesn't come from them, it had already
Young
been.
people organize their own conversation, summon their people the way they want, get their own representation from different places, including Northeastern, where you're saying, and agree that these are the people we want to have the conversation. This is what we've given them to go and present.
Very good. If we look at the June 25th protest, before then, there are placards. There are things that are printed, I think 10 points that were printed by youth. And I want to agree that's the position of entire youth of this republic and beyond. There are some things they say, 1, 2, 3 to 10 points should be done. And it's really doable. It's not a magic. It doesn't require rocket science for that thing to be done. That should tell you that we have had our own dialogue and conversation that these are what we wanted to be done. And let's assume it's not done and we want to sit. My question still remains, we sit with who? We gave you the 10 point. I'm talking to the entire leadership, not only the president. From MCS up to the top. We had given you what we wanted through constitution, through the protest, or whichever way you want, in all medias and in all forums you could. why can't you as leaders now sit? The way you just sat when you had the 10 agenda memoranda with Right Honorable Raila Odinga, were we involved? I believe we are not. When they were sitting and forming whatever based government, I don't remember us called to that table and we are told, now we are here and we want to hear your views. Okay. I don't remember. But if it were, then why can't they as leaders now come together and say, the way we just did our bread-based conversation, this is what youth also wants, and let's implement 1, 2, 3. Right. Otherwise, we'll have as many conversations as possible, and it will end us where it is ending us.
Again. Okay.
Yes.
Mariam, what form should this conversation take, if it was to be had, so that it's acceptable to the young people?
Okay. I think on that perspective, number one, it's like from the protest, how it started, they said the tribeless, the leaderless, and the partyless. So based on these 3 things they said, I'm finding it to be so hard for that dialogue because the government doesn't know who are we going to talk to for this conversation. Who are we going to talk, who are we going to face, you know? So I think one thing that youths need to is, yes, they don't have leaders, but what if the government come up and put some few youth leaders or some few people based, like young people who can talk on their behalf? Are they comfortable? That is the problem. Because as you can see what has been going on, any youth who tries to say, like, I'll talk on the behalf of Gen Z, you normally see what normally comes next. Yeah.
They say that's not our leader, we didn't elect
that is
you,
not our
we didn't
leader.
ask you to talk.
Then how do they want this conversation to be done? I think it's something like, as youth, we need to come up and stay up on that side. Because at the end of the day, we can't. There is no conversation is going to be taken. If so far we are leaderless, we are tribeless,
it becomes difficult.
And partyless. Yes, we can tribeless and partyless, but when it comes to leaderless, we can't make any move over. When it comes to dialogues.
Okay, Agnet, I know you had a burning issue before I bring in Kiari on this. Yes.
Okay, basing on whatever the members of panel have said, I want to conclude on some issues. You see, Trevor, what do we call a person who has performed below average?
Failure.
Yes. So, okay, when it's below average, it's below average. And we normally see in our curriculum, like when you were in class maybe 5, you perform poorly, your teacher will be like, below average, you need to repeat. And if you're below average, that's it. You are not qualified to go to the next level. Okay, I'm not meaning anything, but I'm saying youth, CC. I believe we have the best parents. The parents have really raised us as truthful people. Because I don't see any fault in whatever the Gen Zs are saying. It's true. So I don't know how our parents, because I know most of these leaders are ages of our parents can bring us in a way that we should speak the truth. Then when we come to implementing whatever they were instilling in us, it's wrong. So we should just keep quiet when Albert Ojwang, a blogger and a teacher who was in Homa Bay, taken and killed. We should not say anything because, you know, when we go to the street, we'll be killed. We should not speak about it. When prices of commodities rises, we should not speak. When everything goes astray, we should not speak because we are being rude, we are being used, we don't know, you know, we are young and we don't have experience. Or maybe I would want to understand was this thing that we, the young people, should do. Because when we speak, we are wrong. If we don't speak, we are being killed and we're being maimed, like, you know, whatever is happening. And I think it's high time the youth stand with the same card. We are leaderless, we are tribeless, we are partyless, so that we can keep on having this movement alive. Because at the end of the day, we're having our leaders, most of them, they got bought off.
Yeah.
Like, you know, they're
So
given
to what
money
end?
and, yeah.
What is the ultimate solution? To what end?
Let everybody speak whatever they feel and think is right.
Will there be some
I don't need
You gave
it.
the example of someone who's below average, and you gave an example of the teacher. The teacher is definitely outranks you at that particular point.
Yes.
So the teacher, based on a marking scheme, tells you that you are below average. So in this situation where the youth are the ones deciding, who then decides that this is the below average and this is the mark?
I think you have understood about that matter. Like, I was just trying to say, you know, there are limits of everything. And if the temperatures are below, if they're high, and there is nothing like, you know, in between. So whatever I was saying is that, you know, it's high time we don't listen, like we go by what is right with us. I don't need Trevor or any other person to come and tell me, you know what, Mongale, it's right or left. As long as you know the thing is right, I think it's high time that we pursue what is right.
All right. I want us to switch gears and talk about the IEBC just right now, but let's bring up some feedback and see what you're saying, because for the IEBC perspective, I just want to hear what your expectations are, because now we have a commission. Do you believe they'll conduct a fair election? But that's speculative. I just want to hear what your expectations are of the IEBC. Let's bring up the feedback and see what you're saying first before we get into that conversation. Trevor Mbija at CitizenTV Kenya. Use the hashtag Daybreak. And MC Rumors says, why can't the president address the issues affecting the youth, such as unemployment? Do we really need dialogue to stop abductions, extrajudicial killings, corruption, and bad governance? There's no political goodwill to solve the stalemate, okay? See what else you're saying here. Bobo Tieno Weno says, we don't need an international generational conclave event, intergenerational national conclave. We have NADCO and 10-point agenda on the table. If Raila's marriage with president is not working, why is he fighting to fix it? Unless it's their time to eat, okay? Frank Orinde says, we don't need dialogue to end corruption. We don't need conversations to stop police brutality. And we certainly don't need roundtables to halt the hiring of incompetent officials. What Kenya needs is action and accountability and the courage to do what's right, okay? Sawe says, we've had dialogues before, but the end result never benefits the youth, only a few elite politicians. The president doesn't need dialogue to act. Did he consult anyone when he brought back Kazi Mtaani? Or did he just decide on his own? Let him just act. Okay? Okelo Mwalimu says, now that previous demonstrations have turned out to be more disastrous than beneficial, with properties destroyed and stolen, where lives have been lost and others maimed, we have to change tact. The youth must negotiate by and for themselves. Let's not engage opportunists. Okay? Godi Baraza says, the youth are not on the streets for fun until the president embraces genuine good governance, creates sustainable jobs, and appoints leaders based on merit, not chronism. The unrest will only grow louder. This is a call for change, not chaos. Engineer Lazaro says, youths register as voters, then wait for 2027 and vote for your fellow youths. Engagement in a bloody battle with the police won't have much impact, because your genuine cause gives room for politicians to hijack your genuine cause and twist it to serve their selfish agendas. The real revolution is in the vote, and that's where we're going actually. What are your expectations, Kiari, of the IEBC?
Yeah, let me just respond to something that though the youth inclusivity is an issue, you've not heard us actually talk about it. It really doesn't matter who sits where. We just need a country that is working for everybody. Whether it's a young person that is at the places of leadership or whoever it is, we just want a country that is working. And therefore, we cannot narrow this down to bringing youth on the table. No, it has nothing to do with that. We've just expressed issues that we want dealt with. And therefore, it has nothing to be called on the table or whatever. We just need those issues addressed so that we just have a country that is working for everybody. And it is true, we do not have a problem with those that have things to celebrate this government for. If they wish, because we're in a free country, they can come up with a day and just decide to go on the streets and celebrate what the government has done. For us, we are on the streets actually protesting and complaining because we've refused to settle for less. We've refused to settle on wheelbarrows. We've refused to settle on beans. We want more because going by what we actually give in terms of taxes, we believe much more can be done. And therefore, whatever good is there, we've seen such kind of good, but it's not just good enough based on what we give in terms of taxes. Coming to your question, the issue of IEBC, of course, you know that they are actually so late. They only have 2 years to deliver a lot. We have the delimitation that actually must be done 12 months before election. We have the voter register actually registering voters. They need to actually upgrade the KIMS kit and, of course, come up with technology that will be suitable for that election. And most importantly, of course, is to win back the trust, the public trust in terms of the elections. And the test is coming by the by-elections that are set to come. And that will really, really put them to test on whether they are actually able to deliver credible elections to the people. And our expectation is simple. And they are working on at a very different dispensation where, you know, the youth are awake, and they are not taking things lightly. They want things done. Unlike the others where things were just swept under the rugs and people just watched and lamented in silence, they are now operating at a time when actually we are very suspicious and we are very keen on what is happening, and therefore our expectation is that they'll be able to just read the mood. These are people that are willing to go to parliament to kuvuruga until things are done the way they should. They are coming at a time when people are willing to go to State House to actually tell the president, we do not want this, we want this. And therefore, being an independent electoral body, we really expect them to do the right thing, because this time round, if they deliver wrongly, they may not have somewhere to go back. They will find it difficult to live in Kenya, because you're realizing that Kenyans they're just hostile. They just want leaders to deliver on the mandate that they are given by the Constitution. Okay.
Agneta, your expectation of the IEBC? Okay.
I think first I would like to appreciate that IEBC is in place. As much as it has had ups and downs through the formation processes, but I want to really appreciate that it's in place so that we can do whatever we are supposed to do as the citizens of this country. And maybe to start with, we have had areas where we've lost leaders, and those areas, of course, there must be have been neglected in some way because there is no representation. So we need the IEBC in place to make sure that elections are organized in time so that the people of such areas have to enjoy the fruits of their labor of going to vote, and having representation, because it's their right to have a proper representation. And secondly, I would like to talk about the whole IEBC system should understand from previous commissions and want to stick and ensure that the elections are done systematically and clearly, because I think it's good to learn from mistake now that they've come after other people have already been there. So let them learn from the failures that other IEBCs have done, and make sure that they improve.
Yeah.
And maybe on the issue of the young people, I will call upon the young people of this country. Now that we are seeing whatever is happening in this country right now, and we need to come out in large numbers. Yes, as much as we can fight in streets and everywhere, I think our solution, our proper solution, is on the ballot. So now that the commission is in play, let's make sure that we go register as voters and make sure that our voice counts on that.
All right.
Yes.
Manasseh? How can the IEBC win public trust? Because it's a tricky place to be. In fact, you've heard Kiarie say that if they conduct a wrong election, then they might not find a place to go. But then who decides it's a wrong election? Because you see, everybody it depends on who you're supporting. Yeah. So how can they win public trust?
What the IEBC Commission needs to do is to just see what the law provides. I know and understand that they've had too many legal battles to fight prior to them being sworn in last week or the week. I think it was last week or so. The time between now and the general election is too little, because if you read the Crigler Commission, the IEBC needed preparation 2 years prior to an election to conduct a proper general election. But I think the current commission has time to prove itself. Number one, there are about 6 elections for constituency, Kasipul, Malava, and I think about 6. Yeah. And there are about 16 ward elections to be done. This is the time for the IEBC to prove itself in conducting these elections. And I think, as I said, they have a lot in place, because number one, they need, voter cleanup. The data that is there, I believe, shouldn't reflect the current position, because we've had some deaths, we've had people moving out, so they need a data cleanup first. Secondly, they have about 2 million voters to register between now and the next general election.
5.7 actually.
Yeah, 5.7 million voters to register, and that's a lot. Yeah. They also still have to procure kits for the general election. These kits need to be procured and tested. They also need to train IEBC officers, because those who are there, I don't know if they'll use the same persons, but they need to conduct that. They also need to do public education. They still have a lot to do, and I think the time is not on their side. Okay. And to win the public trust, Trevor, our constitution gave us institutions, and our first line of defense is to trust these institutions. And I saw in some sections of media, they were saying this is number one, when this ruling was read the last time, I think the court ruled that, it annulled the gazettement that was done before that as unconstitutional. And I saw it said, Ruto Commission annulled. It is not a Ruto Commission. It is the mandate of the president to appoint. That is what the constitution provides. After the selection panels present the name to the president does not have anything. It is like saying, having a chief justice, Ruto's chief justice. No, it is the law that provides, you should appoint. So people should not look at this commission as a commission of the Ruto regime. Okay. This is a commission that we put in place to conduct elections and referenda on the behalf of the people of Kenya. Okay. And I believe, it is my belief, Edekon, I think I've seen him do a few things in the past, and I believe he will deliver on this agenda. Okay,
Mugendi, what does the IEBC need to do now to win back public trust? In as much as the commissioners have just come in, but it is the one institution that everybody is just wary of.
Yeah. To win public trust, you need to have a lot of fidelity to your mandate, fidelity to your focus, the vision of the IEBC, the mandate of the IEBC. If you look at the last election, during the presidential petition, there was an issue of quorum. And now quorum has been entrenched in statute. That when an issue arises, unless it is unanimous, when 5 commissioners make a decision, it is a decision of the commission. You have seen the law being amended to provide for where the chairperson is not there. So that we don't have, we don't want that. I think those are what I call progressive measurements of people learning from the past. If a chairperson is not there, the vice chairperson takes over. If the vice chairperson and the chairperson are not there, the members from themselves appoint from among themselves a chairperson, and the provisions of IEBC section 6.1 do not apply. Those are things that show that even Parliament itself did not leave it to the whims of the commissioners based on the advice they got from the Supreme Court. Secondly, and most importantly, the real test is in the work and the output that is going to be done. When the previous IEBC came in office, we had the same, we are jittery, we are feeling one way or another about this. Then for us advocates, and perhaps Tunen can confirm this, in the last general elections, the election petition results cases were less. In fact, it was very difficult to prove an election, to succeed in an election petition. So it will be riding on what we have seen as progressive. Because remember, the IEBC has a secretariat. Now that secretariat exists to conduct the operation while the commission sits above it to give the policy and make decisions that must be passed by the commission. So that is the second thing. The third thing, that it is for us as citizens, do not be encouraged to be mistrustful always. Where these people are doing their job, let them be encouraged, let them be lauded. If it is us as citizens, when we are called, when time comes for us to go register as voters, to inspect whether we are on the voters' roll, we do that mandate faithfully. When it comes to the time to give our views, I don't know if the timelines are going to allow, because if we are unable to do this boundary limitation before and near to the election, then they will not apply to this general election. That's what the Constitution provides. So we are looking at a scenario where it is not just the role of the IEBC, even us as citizens. When time comes to be sensitized about what the IEBC does, are we able to interrogate faithfully and honestly our role, their role, to see what they can do, what they are supposed to do.
All right. Afid, what are your expectations of the IEBC?
Thank you. I want to begin by congratulating the individuals who got themselves a job. And as we know, IEBC is a cornerstone of our democracy. It's not just a referee, but it's the hope of the current and the future generation of this republic. As much as we have had issues with the IEBC before, ranging from trust issue to integrity and many more, I want to believe these individuals will deliver credible results and will get back the hopes and trust of the Kenyans. And for them to do that, the only way they could do that is through transparency in what they do. Most of Kenyans don't know even the role of IEBC and what they do. It's not because they don't want to know, but it's shredded. It's really not known to public because they are not showing what they do, ranging from procurements of the resource or the materials for election, how they conduct their civic education, how they do their voter registration. I think they need to do better on the same, and especially for us pastoralists. We are having issue with voter registration because of our transhumance nature. Unless we have a mobile polling stations, unless we have a mobile voter registration process, unless it's considered that most of the places are not connected to internet and to networks, and they need physical presence of the IEBC personnel or even the voter materials to be made public and available to us, the pastoralists, then we'll still have an issue of distrust with the commission. Okay. But as far as the individuals are concerned and the institution is concerned, because of our own democracy, we need to trust in them, and we need to help them where need be, as the populace. But we'll also encourage them not to be tempted to do as politicians or as the public figures who we know are naturally manipulatives want them to do. And we will see them. I think that the litmus test we're going to have, as it has been said, the fewer by-elections that will be coming. And we are looking at it from my region. I think we have a constituency Banisa constituency that we are looking at. And we will see how credible, how transparent, how different they are from the previous ones. Okay. And that will be the test. I think we'll comment later after those elections.
What they can. Okay.
Yeah.
Mariam.
Okay.
Finally, expectations.
Okay. For me, what I'll say is what they need to do is just have an effective communication with the people. And this is whereby these people, they will show a different face by showing more transparency in each and everything and making sure that there is a good communication channel from their offices coming back to the grassroots people. Because that is the problem, because from what I've been seeing all along, most of the people in the grassroots, they don't know and they don't understand what IEBC is meant for. So I think that is the main thing, the channel. Is so important. Okay. That is one thing that they are missing, and they need to work on that.
All right. Yes. Thank you all for making time, and that's the end of our conversation. Hafidh Mohamud, youth leader; Jared Mugendi, advocate of the High Court; Mariam Onkomba, next gen leader; John Kiarie, chairperson, New Generation Aspirants Movement; Manasseh Tunen, advocate of the High Court; and Agneta Mungale, university student. And as much as you said you just did your last exam, so you're no longer a university student, but so we'll call you a youth leader. Thank you all for making time this morning and for speaking to us, and thank you for the feedback that you sent through. Coming up next is Roy T-Boy on the decks with Ben Sue. Bye for now and enjoy your weekend. My name is Trevor Ombija.